שלום לכם. Dear honorable guests and members of our forum, I'm going to start with some welcome words which I want to follow with a personal story. I feel honored to open our conference on broader view of consciousness and to host here all our distinguished speakers. We are going to have a meeting of 2 days. Today we are going to start with Professor Mark Solm's lecture on the neuropsychoanalytic perspective on the hard problem of consciousness. This will be followed by a case presentation brought by Tali Levi and a panel by Ms. Smadar Steinbrook, the president of the Psychoanalytic Society in Israel, Dr. Rami Aronson, psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, as well as a member of our Israeli Forum of Neuropsychoanalysis, and Neta Ofer, the founder of IEDP. As we finish this evening, there is a reception. There will be a reception out here, and you are all invited. I founded the Israeli Forum of Neuropsychoanalysis in 2000, and we are now a group of 92 members. We hold a rich yearly program composed of once a month meeting of large forum as well as monthly meetings of small study groups. This year, we opened a research accelerator where we meet once a month for a whole day of studying alone together. We meet at the Tel Aviv University at the Library of Social Sciences, where each of us writes for himself alone. Nevertheless, we are all together the whole day. This group met in the past to present its research work to Professor Oliver Turnbull, and this time it meets with Professor Mark Solms on Friday morning. I wanted to thank the division of neurology here in the hospital and its chair, Professor Giladi, and special thanks to Dr. Iftach Biran for providing us with this wonderful venue. I want to thank committee members, which without their effort to make this conference, we would have not been here today. And I want to thank all of you who join us in this conference. I know that it takes some courage to join the meeting, spoken in English, which is not our mother tongue, with glossary, which needs internalization, something which is completely different from what is so common in psychotherapy and psychoanalysis, neurology and psychiatry. All of us try and think in new ways and try to work in such a way that creativity will flow in the meetings. For the last 20 years, each of our meetings feels too short. They all end with the request to have another meeting on this subject or that subject, and these frustrations are our food for thought. Now to the subject of this conference, consciousness. I would like to turn to what I promised, my personal story. Well, my father suffered for 15 years from Alzheimer's disease. I watched him disappearing and disintegrating. He was a handsome, tall, charismatic, energetic, funny, successful, and smart. He had a wonderful public relation. He knew everyone and everyone knew him. I was watching him disappearing, dissolving, disintegrating. His capabilities were going away step by step until he stopped talking, wrapped in his cocoon of diapers, angry at the beginning and then gone. His loud voice was still there, as well as several gestures. He used to do it with his hand like this, as he saw me. It was him acknowledging my sense of humor. He was very vulnerable, as I knew I am having a joke. I used to speak to him. I used to touch his heart. I mean, not really. I would touch his center. and speak with him. I would see that he reacted. It wasn't just me who noticed it. People around could appreciate he was reacting. My mother took care of him. She was a nurse, and it filled her time, mind, and being. They promised each other that they would die together. As I was watching him leaving with his Filipino, with the person who was keeping him, on the wheelchair, I could still see and feel that he was still her man. She heard that a very good friend lost her husband to Alzheimer the very same day we hospitalized her for heart failure. And indeed, she lost him as well. She was operated, and for 3 months she didn't visit him. The day she was released from the hospital, he died. This whole thing made me think of what we could have understood and done. And it was my wish to understand different states of consciousness. So we, members of the Israeli Forum of Neuropsychoanalysis, went into the rehabilitation unit in Chaim Shiba Medical Center. It was done in collaboration with Dr. Zhenya Agranova, the former head of that rehabilitation unit, and Aviv Edelman, who worked in Beit Levenstein Hospital, who noted that in vegetative states there are infantile reflexes. I knew from my study that those reflexes are open and reacting to the environment. Therefore, I said they are reacting. I was invited to the unit to meet the patients and later the staff. As I entered, I saw a guy, and then I saw his mother, who looked familiar. You know, like someone that you know from somewhere, from school, when you see parents and you know them, but you do not recognize. I was introduced and someone said, they're neighbors. I was told it was a Marine guy. His friends went into a house instead of him, and they were killed. It was in the Lebanon war. As the war ended, he had a car accident, and there he was in the rehabilitation unit. I used to hear from my son Oriel about the guys in the Marine, how they run along the seashore with heavy sacks of sand on their shoulders, how they're doing incredible things I could not imagine. And here I am with this unconscious Marine guy, and I had in my intuition that this is the guy my son told me about. Therefore, when presented to him, I presented myself. I said, I'm Oriel's mother. And that lady uttered, we used to read to our son when he was in the intensive care unit, Oriel's Father Funny book. His mother and sister were there talking to him as they did every day. As we spoke, he, who was in his wheelchair, one eye looking to the north and the other one to the south, was somehow reacting. I saw that there is some recognition in his eye. That was the point when I told him how Oriel was admiring him. I told him that through Oriel's stories, I learned that they are doing with their minds and perseverance what the human body cannot tolerate. That there is something in him and in his family that makes me believe he will get out of there. The next patient was a young girl, 18 years old, lovely, still in coma, vegetative state. Her eyes were closed. She seemed asleep. You know, this kind of sleep that when you carry a baby, you feel when it falls into deep sleep or when he's not that deep in the sleep. So her father told me, look at her old picture situated behind her bed. The infant observer I understood what it meant, how hard it was for him to accept his daughter and the state she was in. The physiotherapist said that when she is carrying her to her bed, she is stretching herself in a moral reflex. I asked her whether she ever thought of covering her with a blanket and telling her that she thinks about her and will carry her carefully. She said it didn't occur to her. This is how our pilot research studied. To make the long story short, we went into the unit. We were implementing the methodology of infant observation from the Tavistock Clinic. I spoke with Jack Panksepp. I described him that this unconscious girl is reacting differently to her mother and to the staff and to her grandmother. She has convulsions with her mother and totally relaxed with all others. Jack said we should go on with that pilot study. We chose 8 patients who were young, 18 to 25 years, and were in a vegetative state for 6 to 18 months. We watched them. We looked at what was regarded as primitive reflexes and tried to give them meaning and sense. We had unbelievable results. All the 8 came back to life, responded in different states. Mark had heard about our pilot study during the Paris conference. Was it 2008 or 2009? I don't remember. And he said, 8, I think, yeah. He said, we ought to have a control group. For various reasons, we never did. I'm still optimistic that someone here from that unit will carry this heavy sack. Heavy bag forward. It is not easy to make transformation. It is not simple to be politically right in those units, with the staff and with the politics of hospitals. So if anyone is interested who works with organizations and groups, talk with me in the break. We are building a new format to think about that. There was my first understanding that consciousness is there much earlier than what we imagine. And it is there even when the cortex is not there, not working. So here we are. Mark was right. We need a control group, humbleness, and some courage to go on. Not everyone is coming back to life. Some go and don't. A control group is needed. Deeper understanding is warranted. It is time to start our meeting today. We will meet here tomorrow as well on Friday in the accelerator in the neurological department. And I would like to ask Danny to come over, and then I'll go back to present Mark.